One of the things which is true, that I read this week, that if we have an improper or inaccurate view of life with God after death, the New Jerusalem, a weak view of that, when we do have sufferings and hardships, will crumble. Will crumble. But if we know there's a hope, an unshakable hope, and this is not like denial again, an unshakable hope, when hardship comes, we hold on to the anchor. But without that anchor, if your anchor for heaven is we're going to be fat little cherubs singing songs and showing up in movies like It's a Wonderful Life, and maybe that might be fun, I don't know. That's not heaven. And that wouldn't help me stand in a time of difficulty. But when the Bible tells us evil's eliminated, sadness is gone forever. When my dad died 40 years ago, like kind of a leukemia kind of thing. And it was awful. Death is awful. I remember walking out of Methodist Hospital with my mom and one of my brothers, and my oldest brother after my dad had died. Seen him for the last time kind of thing. One of the brother was with us said, if it wasn't for a hope of life with Jesus, I'd run out in the street right now and let a car hit me. And if you've had somebody die, you know exactly what he's talking about. It's overwhelming. And then I remember at my dad's funeral, at the end of the funeral, we played the Hallelujah chorus, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. We didn't sing it, we just played it, over the speakers. And I had a weird pang, because in the middle of my grief, I felt this pang of joy. At that point in my life spiritually, I wasn't like a hand raiser. I'm not knocking that, but I raise my hands now. But I felt like I was supposed to. And it was kind of this weird pang of grief with hopeful joy that reminded me I was made for another world. And it gave me a depth of soul in that moment. I've done the funeral of both my wife's parents in the last couple of years. Same kind of thing. And you might have had those. It's those pangs you have when grief is deep, but joy is deeper. And what do I do with that? But it's beautiful. But it tells us we're made for another world, because that's what the New Jerusalem is like. That's what our future is like. Last thing. So evil's eliminated. Sadness is gone forever. And then we will be filled with joy. The book of Isaiah, there's two different chapters, Isaiah 35 and Isaiah 65, where Isaiah, 600 years before Jesus, probably 700 years before Revelation, he writes of the New Jerusalem and what it's going to be like in our future. And he says, we'll be filled with joy and gladness. Say that with me. Filled with joy and gladness. Filled. Not sprinkled with, not have occasional experiences of, but he says we will be filled with joy and gladness. Other parts of Isaiah that talk about this, he used the words like, we're glad, it's a place of happiness, we'll be a source, you and I will be sources of joy. And then this passage, Isaiah 35, I love this, says we will be crowned with everlasting joy. Now, get the symbolism out of your head. What would that feel like? To walk around every hour, every day, every month, every year of the rest of our lives in eternity with joy sitting on our heads, which the clear perception there is also all through our bodies, all the time. Joy. So it's these pangs of joy, right? But in heaven, in the New Jerusalem, it's not just a pang anymore, it's the reality of joy. Because when suffering and tears are gone, we have joy. So a couple things about joy. I'm sure you've all had pangs like this. I remember once when I was like 23, I was playing like an adult softball league. And I don't think he even had a particularly good game, but I remember staying in the outfield and had one of these moments where I had like, life is really good right now. It lasted for like 10 seconds, but it was one of these pangs of, God's good to me. God's good to me. 3 weeks ago, one of my daughters got married. and I was sitting there watching the dancing at the reception. You didn't want to see me dance, right? Although I did dance with my daughter, you need to see that one. We heated up the dance floor. Anyway. But when they were dancing, and it wasn't alcohol-fueled dancing, it was dancing with joy. Most of the people out there were followers of Jesus, but it was joy. And I remember thinking, I want to take this moment and put it in a bottle and save it. One of my son-in-law's family members, who's not a follower of Jesus, actually said to him, I didn't know Christians could party like this. And what they were saying was, I'm having this pang that's going against what I thought Christianity was, because I'm feeling joy, like joy. And it was, like I said, if I could put it in a bottle. But in heaven, it's going to be on our heads. It's going to be with us all the time. And you might think of other times where you've had those pangs of joy. May have been times with your family. May have been a really, really good meal. You're like, oh, this is just, life is good. But it doesn't last. It's kind of like the vacation. It doesn't last.